Hello everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today, we're going to dive into an emotional and heartwarming story about Diep and Tieu, how they face the past, say goodbye, and find the courage to move forward with love and hope. If you enjoy this journey, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next videos. Along the way, Diep reconnects with Maya's grandparents, who offer understanding and warmth. Then, he returns to Huyen and their little girl, where laughter fills the air, the kitchen glows with life, and true tranquility exists. This is a story about forgiveness, courage, and believing that even after the heaviest storm, the sky will shine again. Welcome to this journey called When He Comes Home. Let's see together how happiness is sometimes waiting for us, not in some far-off place, but right where someone is still patiently waiting. It was late afternoon, just after the rain had stopped. Drops still clung to the roof, falling in a quiet, steady rhythm. Tick-Tick sat at the wooden table, staring at his old phone. The soft yellow light of an oil lamp bathed the room in a calm hush. Then suddenly, the screen lit up. A name appeared, familiar and unexpected. Tieu froze. His hand trembled slightly, and his heart pounded, not with fear, but a swirl of emotions, surprise, anxiety, and a faint relief. He pressed the button to answer. A woman's voice came through. Slow, deliberate, slightly cold. I'm back. For a heartbeat, it felt like the air had stopped moving. He looked up at the window, where lingering raindrops slid down the glass. His voice wavered slightly. What? What did you say? You're really back? Yes, I'm back. I want to see you. We need to talk about everything, she said. Jay. A silence followed. The past surged like a tidal wave. Years of arguments, tears, lonely nights in an empty house, and the haunting memory of Tieu walking away without looking back. Yet this time, resentment had no place in his heart. He only felt a need to close this chapter with clarity. Where are you? He asked, calm but resolute. At the old house, the one from before. Come, we need to talk peacefully. Okay, he said firmly. I'll come. It's time to end this for good. When the call ended, Dee remained still for a long moment. Outside, the rain started again, softly, but inside, a small light glimmered, as though the storm that had raged in his chest for years was finally beginning to fade. He drew a deep breath and glanced toward the room where Huyen cradled little Maya. The child's peaceful face made him realize that closing the past could open the door to a real future for all three of them. The next morning, mist drifted over the garden furrows in front of the house. Huyen's hands were streaked with soil as she carefully pulled dew-laden plants. The dawn sunlight caught her hair, turning it a warm light brown. Dee left the house with an unusually light step, his face reflecting relief and excitement. Someone unburdened for the first time in years. Huyen, he called cheerfully. She looked up, vegetables still in her hands, and smiled. You've got my attention. What is it? He approached, eyes shining with resolve. She's back. Tieu called me last night. She wants to talk things through and finally close everything. I've been waiting for this moment, Huyen. Huyen's smile faltered slightly, though she tried to remain composed. A flicker of unease passed through her eyes. So, you're going to see her? Yes, he said gently. I have to. I want everything clear. Nothing hanging over us from the past. can free myself from what was, I can truly start over with you. Huyen lowered her gaze. A drop of dew fell onto her hand, cold and quiet. I understand, she whispered. We all need to close the past to open the future. He took her hand, squeezing it gently. I promise, this will be the last time I mention her. I want a small wedding. Nothing extravagant. Just you, me, and Maya. The words sounded like a warm melody in the calm morning. Sunlight illuminated the damp garden, each droplet sparkling like crystal. Huyen gazed at him, a trace of doubt and fear mingling with faith, a fragile but beautiful faith. Go, she said softly. Maya and I will wait for you to begin this new chapter. Dee smiled. He didn't know what lay ahead, but in that moment, he believed fully that confronting the past was the first step toward true happiness. The dew still clung to the rooftops as he paused at the wooden table. There lay yellowed papers, the divorce decree, a copy of the old family registry, and a photo of him and Tieu on their wedding day under a purple bougainvillea arch. He gazed at it long, then folded it carefully into his pocket, not out of longing, but to face the past head on, and finally let it go. He put on his old brown jacket, the one that had accompanied him through countless rains and suns. Outside, his motorcycle waited, water still clinging to the seat. He brushed it off, donned his helmet, and looked back at the house. Huyen stood in the doorway, hair loose, a look of quiet concern and affection in her eyes. I'm leaving, Day said softly. Yes, take care, she whispered. He nodded, started the engine, and the rumble of the old bike merged with the wind whistling through bamboo. The motorcycle moved slowly along the fog-draped village road. Puddles mirrored a silvery gray sky, the scent of wet earth rising, mingling with memories of past rains, whispering reminders of old heartbreaks. Yet today, his heart was different. He was no longer the man clinging to the past. He was someone seeking liberation. Stopping in front of the old house, he saw walls streaked with moss, the darkened wooden door, purple bougainvillea swaying in the breeze. He shut off the engine, and for a moment, all he could hear was sparrows chirping and water dripping from eaves. Peace hung in the air. He knocked 3 times. The door opened. A woman appeared, thinner now, hair pulled back. Time marked her face, but her eyes still held the same spark. You've come? Tieu asked quietly, her voice fragile. Yes, Dee replied gravely. You said you wanted to talk. Of course, me too, she said. They stood in silence for a few seconds, a silence not of indifference, but of 2 people who had once shared a home and now shared only memories. Come in, she whispered. Let's talk inside. After all, this was once your home. Inside, nothing had changed. The wooden table, the window overlooking the countryside, the faded floral curtain, a steaming teapot, and 2 porcelain cups. Tea? She asked softly. Don't speak to me, he said, calm. I've come to end this. Her words sliced the past in 2. Tieu looked up, eyes trembling. He sat, hands wrapped around the cup. You're right, he said. I want to end this too. I was gone too long. What's lost can't be recovered, but we can move on. Dee looked at Tieu calmly. I know. I've heard you're doing well, have a good wife, and a lovely little girl. I'm truly happy for that. Thank you. He took a folder from his pocket and placed it on the table. These are the old divorce papers. All that's missing is your signature, and everything will officially be over. We won't owe each other anything anymore. Tieu looked at the papers. A tear fell, soaking into the wood of the table. When I left, I thought you didn't need me anymore. Now I understand that the one who left was me, leaving behind the best thing I had. No one is at fault, Day replied gently. It was just the wrong timing. Tieu gave a weak smile. Can you sign it? My hands are shaking. He was silent for a few seconds, then pushed the papers toward her. You don't have to force yourself. This is the only way to truly close the door on the past. She nodded, taking the pen. Her signature wavered, but was firm, ending a long story. Dee stood up. Thank you. Now I can move on with my life. Tieu turned away, her voice breaking as she called after him. Dad, I wish you happiness with her and the baby. He didn't look back. The rain had stopped, leaving only a cool breeze that made the bougainvillea sway gently. Day climbed onto his old motorcycle. The engine roared steadily, like a calm heartbeat. He revved the throttle, feeling the heaviness in his chest slowly lift. On the road, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the gray clouds, casting golden light across the fields. A small but sincere smile appeared on his lips. Only one thought remained. Now, I can truly go home. The old motorcycle glided over the red dirt road, leaving wet tire tracks glistening in the sunlight. Ahead, a fork in the road led to Tieu's parents' old house, a place once filled with laughter, where he had been called son-in-law. A shadow of doubt crossed his eyes. Then he sighed and nodded to himself. He had to visit them one last time. He pulled over and looked around. Next to him was a small roadside stall under a tin roof, displaying bananas, guavas, oranges, and a few wildflower bouquets. Dee approached. Good morning. Could you prepare a basket of fresh fruit and some dry tea for me? The vendor, a middle-aged woman, smiled. Are you visiting someone important, boy? Just some old acquaintances, he replied, his gaze distant. He carefully tied the basket to his motorcycle and continued. The air carried the faint scent of oranges and tea leaves, simple but warm. The house appeared behind a row of areca palms and a hibiscus hedge. Everything remained the same. The aged tile roof, blooming hibiscus, and the stone well filled with clear water. On the porch, the old man read a newspaper, and the grandmother washed vegetables on a low table. Hearing the motorcycle, they both looked up. The grandmother squinted happily. Oh, Dee, has our boy come back? The old man put down his paper and stood up. It's been a long time. Come in, it's getting late. Dee smiled and led the motorcycle into the yard, bowing respectfully. Hello, grandparents. It's been a while since I visited. Today, I wanted to come by to say goodbye. He placed the basket on the table. Oranges and some simple dry tea, meaningful in their simplicity. The grandmother sighed. Just seeing you back is enough, son. Dee spoke slowly. I know, but today, I wanted to say goodbye. Perhaps this is the last time. The atmosphere grew quiet. The grandmother looked at him with concern. This is after you last saw her, right? He nodded, his gaze calm. Yes, everything ended there. She lowered her head, hands trembling as she held the vegetables. So it's over? Yes, Day replied, bowing slightly. If we keep holding on, we'll only suffer more. She has her path. I have mine. I just hope you won't be sad. The old man was silent for a few seconds, then nodded slowly. You did the right thing. Some things can't be fixed through sacrifice. The important thing is to live honestly, without resentment. We'll take care of the rest. Don't worry. The grandmother sighed. She was the one who made the mistake. Leaving was her fault, not yours. As long as you live happily, with someone who loves and cares for you, we'll be at peace. Dee felt a lump in his throat. He bowed his head and murmured, "Thank you, grandparents. Even though I'm no longer your son-in-law, I will always be grateful. I hope you stay healthy. When I have time, I'll come back to visit, not as family, but as someone who has always considered this place home." The old man smiled and patted him on the shoulder. "This house will always be open for you, Dee. You are part of this family, and that will never change." The grandmother turned away, hiding her tears. On the table, beside the vegetables, she placed some sweet potatoes. "Take these with you so she can make soup for you. I heard you're living with Huyen now. She's a good girl. We're happy for you." Dee smiled gently. "Yes, she is. I owe life a chance, and this time I want to live it wholeheartedly." The old man nodded. "Keep moving forward. Don't look back. What awaits you ahead is your true home." The sky turned orange. The last rays of sunlight pierced the bamboo, illuminating Dee's face. He bent to pick up the empty basket and returned to his motorcycle. "Goodbye, grandparents. Take care. Go in peace, son. It's getting dark. Huyen and the little girl are surely waiting." The engine roared softly and then faded into the distance. The old couple stood at the door, watching him leave, with a mixture of tenderness and relief, as if seeing a loved one finally find their way home. The wind played with his hair, carrying the scent of cooking smoke and ripe rice. The heaviness in his chest was gone. Ahead, through the bamboo grove, the lights of Huyen's house appeared like a welcoming lantern. He thought silently, perhaps peace isn't forgetting the past, but having the courage to say goodbye. He accelerated with a calm smile. The sky burned red, the wind was warm, and in the distance, a child's laughter sounded like a homecoming anthem for a man who, after half a lifetime of storms, had finally returned to his true home. The dirt road leading to Huyen's small house appeared under the golden light of sunset. The bamboo gate was ajar. A pumpkin vine spread across it. On the porch, Huyen shook vegetables, while Maya played with a kitten, her rosy cheeks glowing in the last rays of the sun. When the motorcycle stopped, Maya turned around and shouted excitedly, "Uncle D is back! Mom, Uncle is back!" Huyen looked up and smiled sweetly, the smile of someone who had waited in silence, yet with faith. Dee parked, took off his helmet, and stepped into the yard. Twilight illuminated his tired but peaceful face, as if he had finally left a long past behind. "Huyen," she asked softly, a trace of worry in her voice. "You've been out all day. Are you okay? Did everything go well?" He nodded, his gaze calm and warm. "It's all over. We talked. Everything that needed to be said has been said. There's no resentment or regret left." Huyen watched him for a moment, ensuring his words were sincere. Then she smiled slowly. "So, you're finally free." She opened the basket, revealing sweet potatoes and oranges from the grandparents. "This is from them," she said. Dee smiled, touching her shoulder gently. "I found you, the best thing that ever happened to me." The evening breeze blew softly, the smell of cooking smoke filling the warm air. Night fell. Inside the small house, the fire illuminated familiar faces. Maya sat among them, eating while telling stories from school, her eyes sparkling like drops of dew. Today, the teacher said I recited very well. Dad, do you want me to read it to you? He smiled and nodded. Of course, daughter, I'm listening. Maya stood and recited clearly. The winter wind arrives. Mama lights the coals. Papa smiles by the fire. Our home shines like the spring sun. The simple, pure verses left them in quiet reflection. Huyen looked at Day, her eyes full of unspoken emotion. He smiled back. You recited beautifully, Maya. He poured a little more fish into her bowl, a small but loving gesture, making the kitchen feel warmer than ever. After dinner, when Maya was asleep, Day and Huyen sat on the porch. The crescent moon hung in the sky, its reflection shimmering on the brick floor. Crickets chirped, and in the distance, a dog barked. So, she said softly, what do you plan to do now? He glanced toward Maya's room, then back at her, his gaze determined yet gentle. I want to start over, Huyen. Not to forget, but to truly live. From the heart. If you agree, I want a small wedding right here. No frills, no fuss. Just us, a few family members, a simple meal, and some white flowers in front of the patio. Huyen smiled, tears glistening. You speak as if it were a dream. It's not a dream, he said, taking her hand. I've already weathered the storm. Now, I just want to live peaceful days with you and our daughter. She rested her head on his shoulder and whispered, if that's your dream, I'll make it come true with you. Outside, the wind gently stirred the bamboo. The oil lamp flickered, but its light remained warm and steady, reflecting their simple, honest, and enduring love. The next morning, the sky was clear. Roosters crowed throughout the village. On the porch, Huyen hung laundry and repaired the doorframe. Maya ran around the yard, singing joyfully. The sun shone on the new wooden planks, witnessing a new beginning. Huyen, Day called that afternoon. I'm going to the town hall to hand in the papers. We're going to officially register our marriage. You won't have to wait long. She turned, eyes radiant like morning light. Dee smiled. This time, I promise no one will have to wait. The camera slowly pulled back. 3 small figures, a man, a woman, and a girl, stood together in the morning sun, in a dew-covered courtyard. Their laughter mingled with birdsong, the wind, and smoke from the kitchens. In life, we all have a journey to rediscover peace. But sometimes, what we seek isn't far away. It's right where someone is still waiting for us, in the rain, by the fire, in a small home full of love. Dee's journey is a story of forgiveness, courage, and finding peace after years of heartache. After reconnecting with his ex-wife Tieu to close a painful chapter, he seeks clarity and finally returns to Huyen and their little daughter, Maya. Along the way, he revisits the family who once welcomed him, receives their blessings, and discovers that true happiness is not distant, but waiting where love remains. From rainy afternoons and tense reunions to quiet mornings in a sunlit garden, Dee learns that letting go of the past opens the door to a new beginning. But as he faces the next step in his life, will the past ever truly let him go? Or is there still one last challenge ahead?